What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Dimmer Reads Comics. Today we're going to do a review of EC Archives Tales from the Crypt Volume 2. This is trade paperback. They do make these in hardcovers, but they're way too hard to come around, and these are way cheaper to pick up, so I ended up picking it up in trade paperback. And because it is trade paperback, it does have glued binding. Now, EC Archives, I keep saying EC Archives. What does EC stand for? It stands for Entertainment Comics. Entertaining Comics. So, Entertainment Comics Archive, Tales from the Crypt. This has 216 pages and collects issues 23 through 28, and it is published by Dark Horse Books. Now, this one, like the other one, like Volume 1, it has 6 issues, and in each issue, it has 4 stories, short stories. So it's kind of like an anthology, but not really, because, like, in an anthology, there's something that connects the whole universe in the same. Like, for example, if I tell 4 different stories, there has to be something that connects the stories to all of it, right? Well, this doesn't really connect any story. Maybe that it's set in the world, or that it's being told by the crypt keeper. But the thing is, I started noticing that in every issue, like I said, there's 6 issues. In every issue, we get like 2 stories from the crypt keeper, which is the guy that tells the stories for Tales from the Crypt. We get 2 issues from the old witch, which she tells stories from the Haunt of Fear, and then we get 2 issues from the Vault Keeper, and he tells the stories from the Vault of Horror. So in each issue, there's technically 2 different stories per of these one of the narrators that's telling the story. So it doesn't really make sense. You would think that it's called Tales from the Crypt, that every single story in here would be from the Crypt Keeper, but no, it doesn't work like that. And when I flip through, I'll show you guys what I'm talking about. But anyway, as far as the people that worked on this, there's a lot of people. I'm not gonna say who worked on what. When we do the overview, you guys will see. But we got people that worked on this, like Al Feldstein, Marie Severin, Graham Ingalls, Jack Davis, Johnny Craig, Wally Wood. Wow. Jack. Did I say Jack Kamen? I don't think so. Jack Kamen, Joe Orlando, Howard Larson, George Roussos. Wow, that's a weird name. I'm sorry if I butchered that. Yeah, and that's about it. Sorry, I have to kind of scan through it, so I apologize if that took me a while. There is an introduction by Grant Geisman and a foreword by Joe Dante. So, yeah, like I said, Tales from the Crypt Volume 2. Let's go trade paperback, published by Dark Horse. Collects issues 23 through 28, 216 pages. Let's go ahead and kind of flip through this. The first one I did, I kind of marked the first couple 8 stories that I read to talk about them a little bit. This one I didn't mark any of them. I'm going to see if I remember the stories just by the pictures, and we'll talk about it. Um, there were some good stories in here, and then there was some like that didn't make sense to me at all. But if I get through to them, I'll talk about them. If not, we'll just keep moving forward because I don't want to make this too long. So anyway, guys, let's go ahead and crack this open and talk about some of the stories contained in here. Alrighty, guys. So let's go ahead and crack this open and talk about the stories a little bit. Like I said in the first one, originally these were actually all done in black and white. So you do get the original black and white in the first page. And then you got, oh, this is so awesome right here. This picture of the Crypt Keeper, so awesome. The art, the color. I just love that they added the color. I've never read the black and white stuff, so I can't compare it to from the black and white to this. I just like this one. So there you go. The EC Archives Tales from the Crypt, issues 23 through 28, volume 2, forwarded by Joe Dante. Here's all the contents. It tells you every issue. and then or it tells you every issue, and then it tells you every story, and then every person that worked on the story, like the artist and the writer. There's some of them that's weird, like precautions, that's unknown. Like precautions, they don't even know who worked on it. The curse, unknown. And then it goes over to this side, and I'll kind of stop there so you guys can, if you guys want to pause it and look through the names and stuff. But then you got the introduction by Grant Geisman. I don't really read those the introductions or the forwards. Heck, I don't even read the Crypt's Corner, and I'll tell you guys what that's about here in a little bit. But here's the first issue. Look at that art. It's just old school. Golden, silver, bronze. I don't even know the difference between, but the golden age stuff, golden and silver age stuff. Tales from the Crypt, issue number 23. You got the Crypt Keeper, Old Witch, and the Vault Keeper. Now, when I was mentioning earlier that each issue has two stories of each one, here's what I'm talking about. Let's flip through the first issue. So the first issue, or I'm sorry, the first story is Reflection of Death, and it's told by the Crypt Keeper. And this one is actually kind of an interesting story. He kind of tells a story of a person. We're actually supposed to be this person. Like he's telling a story in our point of view where we're driving in a vehicle with a friend in the long road. We get tired and we switch seats and we start taking a nap in the car. We get into a car accident, and then we kind of black out and then wake up in the middle of the night, walk towards town. When we're walking towards town and trying to get help, everybody gets scared of us. And finally, we end up making it to our friend's house, the one that was driving, and he sees us. He lets us in, but he doesn't get scared of us because he's blind because of the accident. We go to the mirror and we see ourselves. We've been dead and we were walking like that. That's why everybody was getting scared of us. And then we wake up and we see it was just a dream. We see it was a dream, but the same things happen in the story where the accident happens, and we black out and then we come to and it's the same thing again. So it was actually kind of an interesting story. I really like that story, how he put us in he put us in the story. He wasn't just talking about this guy, that person, this person. He put us in the story like we were this person. So that was cool. So then the next story, see, it's told by the Witch's Cauldron, the Witch Keeper, and or she's not the Witch Keeper, she's they call her the Old Witch. She tells a story, and this story is kind of interesting where this guy goes to a grave and he's looking for his wife. And the thing is, his wife is buried in a mausoleum, so he breaks in and places kind of a stuffed animal there that he won for her when they went to a carnival one day. And then it goes into a backstory of how he was a chauffeur for a rich man. The rich man was the uncle of the wife, which is I guess you can say the niece or something like that of the woman. He didn't want her to get married with the guy. They ended up getting married, behind his back. After the old guy found out, he kind of kept them separated. Because he kept them separated, the wife got sick and she ended up dying of pneumonia. And so now he went to go and look for her at the cemetery and found out she was at the mausoleum. And what's funny is while he was at the mausoleum, it got locked in there. He got locked in there and he couldn't get out. And he was in there for about a month. And eventually he passes away in the mausoleum. And when they find him passed out or passed away a month later with bones scattered around him. And that's how he actually stayed alive as long as he did, because he was actually eating the body that was in the casket. He was eating his wife. That was an interesting story. I was like, holy crap, that was... Ooh. Here's the Crypt's Corner, which I don't read. And then you got another one from the Crypt Keeper. This story, I didn't really like it. This guy pretty much doesn't... There's a boss and his wife, and then there's an employee and his wife. The employee invites the boss and his wife over for dinner. The wife's running late. She comes by, tells him the story about she wants to go see a seance guy. The boss doesn't believe it. The boss only leaves his wife behind. They go and see the seance. And so it's the boss the employee and the employee's wife. They go and see the seance. The seance tells them that the boss's wife is dead, which she isn't because they just left her behind. But when they get back home, they found out she's dead. So yeah, it's a weird story. That's about. I don't know if I really like this story or not. It was kind of like one of them. It was too cheesy. Like they didn't even explain how the wife died or anything like that. She was just dead when they got home. And then so we go back to the Vaultifor, which is the old witch again, and that tells a story about a voodoo stuff. There was actually quite a few stories of voodoo in here, but we get this these partners, these two guys. They're in Haiti, and they're trying to look for these tribes doing voodoo, and eventually find somebody that they eventually find the tribe that's doing voodoo on somebody, a native, and they see what happened. They bring back the dead native back to life with the doll, and because they weren't supposed to see that, they run away. One of them gets captured, and I guess the natives release him, and they eventually go back to their hometown, and they keep having nightmares about the doll appearing, and eventually it does keep appearing, and come to find out that the guy that got captured was dead all along. The natives put the natives put the guy's heart that they captured into the doll, and they sent the doll and that guy out to kill this guy that they saw the whole voodoo thing. So yeah, it was an interesting story. I didn't like it because voodoo, you can just come up with a whole bunch of stuff. It was okay though. It was an interesting story. I liked the art. The art was very beautiful. Um, there is a lot of reading in here though, as you guys can see. So that was that story that issue right there. Then we move on to issue 24, and it's told by the Crypt Keeper. So this story is about a guy that is losing his hearing, and he goes and sees his friend, and his friend is wearing glasses. He takes off his glasses and he tells him that there's this guy that performs surgeries to let to fix like blind people's problems, the hearing problems. His friend got his vision back by that voodoo, not really voodoo guy, but the guy that performs operations, by him putting cat eyes in his instead of his eyes that went blind. So then the other guy that's going deaf, he goes and see him, and that guy ends up, the guy that does surgery ends up putting bat stuff in his ears to make him hear again. Eventually, when he does that, everything's cool. He goes back, he can hear again. He finds out that his wife's cheating on him. But what ends up happening is he starts turning into a bat himself. He goes and see his friend. His friend starts turning into a panther because I guess the surgeon guy that was weird, that did the back alley surgery, put panther eyes in his eyes instead of regular cat eyes. So anyway, he runs away, goes back to his wife. He catches his wife in the act of cheating on him, and him being the bat goes after the guy that she was cheating on him with, and eventually he goes and I guess you can say takes his wife too, kills his wife. It was an interesting story, but it just doesn't make sense. I don't read too much into it because some of it doesn't make sense. This one did kind of. I like the explanation, but there's some of them in here that don't make sense at all. Um, then we got one with the witch's cauldron, which is told by the witch, the living dead. Um, this one was kind of an interesting story. I wasn't the biggest fan of it, but it's supposedly these two guys, they're best friends. They both go to medical school. They both are in love with this female right here. One of them is more like a psyche, like hypnotist type of doctor. The other one's a surgeon. Eventually, they found out that the woman they both are in love with, she gets married with one of them. She ends up having cancer in the brain. One of the doctors is like, "Hey, you know what? Please, I beg of you to save her with hypnosis." And he's like, "No, I got to perform surgery." She ends up dying, and the guy that wanted to perform hypnosis on her swore his revenge on the guy. So the guy that eventually did the surgery on the wife, he ends up having a cancer as well. And so he goes and see his friend, and he performs the hypnosis thing on him, saying that he's not going to die until he hears the name of his late wife that died. And eventually he passes away, like his heart stops beating, but he's still alive because he's still in that trance. So eventually the name comes back, or they eventually they say the name of the wife somewhere, and he dies because he's been dead for a few days. So once the trance has been broken, he dies. It was a weird story, but it was very interesting. I just don't understand how hypnosis can keep you alive. That it was kind of like what, like I said, I don't read too much into them. I just enjoy the stories and and go forward. Here's a Crypt Keeper's Corner. The Vault of Horror. It's actually told by the Vault Keeper. This one was kind of an interesting story. Um, there's this guy that's reading a horror story. He gets tired and he goes and gets a midnight snack, but he kind of blacks out, ends up in the street. He blacks out again and ends up um, in a diner. He starts ordering some food, but the food is kind of nauseating to him. He blacks out again. Excuse me. He blacks out again, ends up in a cemetery. He digs up a body. He's about to eat the body, but then he sees that there's people kind of going after him. So he runs and carries the bodies with him. He trips and falls and hits his head, and he wakes up. He thought it was a dream. So then he wakes up. He goes and gets a midnight snack, and when he opens his refrigerator, because he's seen everything's been pulled out, that body that he saw in his dream was actually there, and that's how it ends. It was actually kind of an interesting story, but it didn't really pull me in to the point where I was like, well, why was he a cannibal? Like what the heck? Scared to death, told by the Crypt Keeper. Um, there was this couple. This guy, I didn't really like this guy. He's a piece of work. He knew that this girl he's with is gonna inherit this rich man. This female has a father. She's gonna inherit his money, and because this guy knew that she was gonna inherit her father's money, he ends up kind of being with her, being married with her. They make a plan to kill the old guy, and they do it because she inherited the money. But then he's like, well, if I kill her, I'm gonna inherit her money as well. So he ends up giving her like a heart attack by scaring her to death. And he does it twice. He scares her to death the first time, or he scares her the first time she gets a heart attack, scares her again, talking about that the fathers come back to haunt them, and she gets another heart attack and dies. But eventually, the father that they killed in the pond in the estate comes after him. They chase the I guess you can say the zombie of the father comes back and chases this guy and drags him back to that pond, and they sink into the quicksand, and then he passes away. It was an interesting story, actually. I really liked that story. Tales from the Crypt, Volume 25. Interesting story. Let's see. The first one. There's this guy that pretty much likes to go hunting for sport. One of his friends doesn't like it. He thinks it's gruesome. He thinks he shouldn't do it. It's not sport. So he goes hunting anyway. And while he goes and hunts, he falls into a trap. Somebody put spikes on the road. He gets into a car accident, and somebody's hunting him for sport. So it kind of comes full circle. It was kind of an interesting story. I liked it. I just didn't like how they're keeping the heads alive. Anyway, that was an interesting story. This one was an interesting story as well. Judy, you're not yourself today. So there's this girl, there's this guy, and and there's this couple. This guy's very protective of his wife and tells her not to open the door for no one when he leaves. Um, as soon as he leaves and goes to work, this old lady comes and knocks on the door. She opens. The old lady begs for money, lets her in, and this old lady does like this voodoo magic on her, where they switch bodies. Um, Eventually, when they switch bodies, the old lady's body stays behind because it's supposed to be, it's switched bodies already, and this girl's still the old witch, and she's going around town. Eventually, the old lady convinces the husband that she's, the wife, Judy, and goes after the old witch. And what's funny is she locks. What's funny is he locks Judy in the closet before he goes after the old witch. He finds the old witch, tells her he has cancer, and the old lady's like, "Oh, I don't want to die, because he has cancer." So they switch bodies again. She is back to herself, Judy, and the old lady's back in her old lady form in the closet though, because remember that he put her in the closet. He shoots the closet, and then they bury her in the basement. And one night, the she comes back to life and switches bodies again. And this is the old lady, and the guy ends up killing her and kills the old lady, herself too. It was a weird story. Like it doesn't even say how the magic was done. It was like some just voodoo magic chanting stuff, and that's how it did it. It was an interesting story aside from that voodoo stuff. But anyway, um, let's see, loved to death. So there's this guy that really loves this girl. He's trying to get at her. He's trying to get at her. Nothing's working. One of his friends recommends he goes and see this weird back alley chemist where he, gives a potion to him. He puts that potion into this girl's drink. That girl falls in love with him completely. And after a while, he gets bored of it. Like he can't stand that she's always in love with him, always wants to be with him. So he goes back to that chemist guy, asks for the antidote, and the antidote is actually supposed to kill the person. It's not supposed to take that love thing off of them. And so yeah, so he gives him an antidote to kill her, but because the wife was like, well, I want my husband to have the hottest cup of coffee, switches the copies, and he ends up dying. And because he ends up dying, she couldn't take it anymore, being alone without him, and she kills herself. So now they end up in whether at heaven or hell, for eternity. And he's like, "Oh no, no, no!" So that was an interesting story, actually. Because growing up, I wish I can, I thought I was in love with somebody, and I wish I could do something to be with them. So I kind of like that story. It was kind of nice. This one was a very interesting story, actually. The works in wax. This couple owns a wax museum back in like the 1800s in England or in London, and but it's kind of like a gruesome one where like they got wax figures of like Jack the Ripper, just things like that, right? And so eventually the wife starts moving the figures because she says that the figures are talking to her, saying that they're tired, they don't want to do this, they don't want to do that. The husband's like, you know what? If you keep moving the wax figures, I'm gonna kill you. I swear to God, I'm gonna kill you. And she doesn't listen to him, and yeah, eventually he strangles her, and the wax figures come to life and take the guy as well. It was an interesting story, actually, because these wax figures were based on serial killers in London. It was an interesting story. I really liked it. This is the last one I'm going to talk about because I don't want to talk about all of them. Drawn and quartered. There's this guy that got he was an artist. He did a lot of paint, and he painted a lot of nice things. But certain people told him that his work wasn't that good, so he ended up selling all his stuff, and he ended up moving somewhere and to like Haiti or something like that, just to live his own life. But he ran into somebody saying, "Oh yeah, the people that you sold your paintings to for cheap are selling them for like $1,500 per piece because they're worth something." And the art gallery guy lied to you and things like that. So he goes and buys voodoo again. And eventually, that voodoo guy tells him, to stick his hands in some boiling water. It doesn't hurt him, but now he has the voodoo. So everything he draws and does, everything he draws doesn't come to life, but anything he does to the drawing comes to life. So he draws a vase, and he gets upset with the vase. He knows the voodoo stuff is it was just dumb, and he rips up the drawing of the vase. When he does that, the vase breaks, and he tries it again with a piece of bread, and something happens to the piece of bread. So now he gets his revenge on the people that kind of did him dirty. But what he didn't know is when he did the voodoo thing, he just got done finishing a portrait of himself. So now he has to kind of protect that portrait of himself because if something happens to his portrait, something doesn't happen to him. And so at first he locks up his portrait in the vault, but he starts suffocating because the portrait can't get air. So he gets his revenge on the people that did him dirty, and he eventually puts his portrait up in a closet by a skylight. And once he's kind of going through, he's kind of going on with his day. There's this guy working on a billboard with some paint and some turpentine, and he's working at it right above the skylight where he put his drawing, and the painter accidentally knocks over the turpentine and it lands on the painting. So yeah, he ends up dead. The borrowed body was an interesting story, actually. Um, Let me see. So there's this guy. You know what? I think this story was kind of stupid, actually. There's this guy, and it's stupid because it doesn't really say how. There's this guy and this girl that are kind of together, but this girl's cheating on this guy's on her husband. They plan on killing the husband so they can be together. They get this plan going, and when he goes and when the guy goes and kills the husband, he gets away. This guy gets hit by a car, and he goes to the hospital. And once the husband gets back home, the wife kills the husband. And when the wife kills the husband, they switch bodies. There's no explanation of voodoo or nothing like that. And so the guy that was that was in it, the husband, not the husband, but the other guy. Now, once the other guy and the husband both died, they switch bodies. So now the husband is in this guy's body, goes back and gets his revenge on the wife. I didn't like that story because it doesn't really tell how the body is kind of switched. There's no talk about voodoo or magic or nothing like that. So anyway, I'm gonna kind of flip through this now a little bit. I'll talk about this one last. I think that's enough stories. I don't want to make this video too long. This guy buys some land with an Indian burial mound. He thinks it's superstition. He kind of tries to bulldoze it. It doesn't happen, and the Indian ghosts come after him. And yeah, it was a weird story. I liked it. It was enjoyable. I'm just going to kind of flip through the pages now. This political one was a weird one. I'm not going to talk about it because it's political. But it's about a revenge one where this guy's really jealous of the guy he's always running up against and losing. So he ends up killing him, leaves a suicide note, and yeah, it's a weird one. It's kind of a religious thing too, so that's why I don't want to talk about it. But I'm just going to kind of flip through the pages now. I know that's a lot that I talked about. These stories are very interesting, but they're short, and because they're short, they can't really pull you in. So you just got to read them to enjoy them. You know what I mean? You can't read them and be like, oh, and think about them a lot. You just got to really enjoy them. So, because they're short stories, they're only like 6 to 8 pages long. Like, for example, this one, I'm not going to talk about it, but look, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 pages. That's it. So you can't really invest your time, and to think about it, to think about the story or anything. You just got to enjoy the little story, and that's it. So like I said, I don't know how you guys want me to do these. Talk about every story or not. To flip through the pages, it's kind of hard to really, think about how to do these because, it's just a whole bunch of little short stories. I enjoyed them. I really do enjoy reading these, but it's just, I can't enjoy them enough to where it pulls me in. So this is the last issue right here. What's weird about these is that there's a lot of reading, actually. That's why these kind of take me some time. But what's weird about these is once the last issue is done, it kind of gives you like, look out for these ones, and then that's it. So that's the end of the book. So what we're going to do next is do the rating and see what you guys think of my rating for this. Alrighty, guys. So before we do the rating of this, let's do a quick recap. This is Tales from the Crypt, Volume 2, trade paperback with glued binding, published by Dark Horse Books, 216 pages, and collects issues 23 through 28. Now, what do I give this as a rating? Like I said before, it is kind of hard to do a rating of these because, like, do you give a rating of the issue? Do you give a rating of per story? So I'm gonna give it a rating of three. And it's gonna be a solid three. Like, it's a three because I enjoy the stories. They're enjoyable. They're just kind of like, oh, kind of spine tingling, and that's it. Kind of get you, kind of get you thinking a little bit, but not enough to where you think about the story so much and you're like, oh my god, what was maybe this and maybe that. What was the writer thinking? No, you just enjoy the story. So I want to give these a three because they are awesome to read. Nostalgia. Tales from the Crypt. Back in the golden ages when these were done. So that's why I'm giving it a three. I'm definitely keeping these because the hardcovers are really hard to come by. I think the hardcovers per volume right now are like 100 to 200 bucks a piece. So that being said, I'm gonna give this a three for sure. I highly recommend you guys pick these up and read them. If I don't want to say you should pick up all the EC archives, but I do highly recommend you guys pick up at least Tales from the Crypt, at least, because the stories are, I I don't want to say they're great, but they're enjoyable to read. But the art is very, very beautiful to look at. Just to see what they used to do back in the day. I know they used to be in black and white, and now it's full colored, and some people don't enjoy that. I do. I enjoy it because I've never read it in any other format. So yeah, I'm gonna give it a solid three. We still have three other volumes to go with Tales from the Crypt, so stick with me on these guys. Like I said, I don't know how I'm doing this. I'm kind of winging these ones because it's 24 different short stories. So I'm kind of winging it, talking about stories here and there. Maybe on the next one, I'll try to pick and choose a few stories to talk about and maybe go around that way. I still don't know how I'm doing it. But anyway, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this review. If you guys did, please leave a like. I really appreciate that. If you guys read Tales from the Crypt, let me know in the comments down below. If you guys read Tales from the Crypt, Vault of Horror, yeah, it is, yeah, it's Vault of Horror. Jesus, I already forgot. There's a whole bunch of them from EC Archives. There's Tales from the Crypt, the Vault of Horror. Is it the Vault of No? It's the Vault of Horror, and then it's the Haunt of Fear, and then there's Shock and Suspense Crime, Shock and Suspense Stories. Let me know if you guys read any of those stuff. What your favorite of the EC Archives is. Um, Also, as of right now, I'm not picking up any more, books. I'm not taking recommendations. I have a humongous list. Yeah, I got to get through a lot of this stuff. I want to read more than half the books that I have so I can actually start making room, keeping stuff, selling stuff, and go from there. So I'm not taking any recommendation, guys. Sorry. Once I, make enough room and can start collecting again, I might start taking recommendations. But as of now, I hope you guys enjoy this content. Shout out to everybody that's been watching, liking, subscribing, and commenting on my videos. I really appreciate it. That being said, give me one quick second. We did get 2 new subscribers. Um, so I'm up to 19 now. Yay, 19 subscribers. Sorry, guys. Um, One of them, his name is, or their name, I don't know if it's a he or she, but it's Dr. Al Rose, Rozz. Shout out to him. Thank you very much for subscribing. And thank you to the other person that subscribed. I don't know who it is because YouTube's kind of funny. If you set your profile, I guess, not to public or I guess private, it won't show me who it is that subscribed, but it will tell me I have a new subscriber. So that kind of sucks. I can't give them a shout out, but to the ones that I do see, I'll definitely give them shout outs, and they did deserve it. Thank you very much, guys, for subscribing. 19, can't wait to get to 20. One more subscriber. Like I said, guys, I'm not really trying to get rich off of YouTube. I'm not trying to have hundreds and thousands, hundreds of thousands. There we go. Of subscribers. I'm just doing this because I enjoy it. I enjoy telling you guys about this, the reviews. I enjoy reading comics. This is more for me to be like, what was this about? Or what was this about? Oh yeah, I read that, but what was it about? And I can go back and watch my videos and be like, oh, I remember now. Oh yeah, I had that book and I sold it because I didn't like it. So that's the only reason that I do this YouTube stuff. Now, if I get a little bit of profit out of it, great. But the thing is, I don't want to be a big YouTube star type of thing because I hate that you have to do like the sponsors. talk about the sponsors that sponsored you, or put the ads in there. I don't like that stuff. So that's why I don't really care if I become famous or not with you. I don't really care. This is just for me. I'm trying to stay grounded. I'm trying to do this as natural as possible. I'm not trying to make it scripted. That's how I'm trying to do this, and that's how I'm trying to keep it because it's more for me. So anyway, guys, enough about that. Sorry if I kind of went on a tangent there. Um, but anyway, guys, yeah, if you guys haven't done so already, please subscribe. It really helps build my channel up. All that being said, guys, take care, stay healthy, and we'll see you guys on the next one.